Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's really nice to see all familiar people there. It's a pleasure to be part of the inaugural Orpington Literary Festival. I'm fond of Orpington. I have memories of going shopping in Orpington and playing golf in the lush and picturesque golf courses, which I enjoy very much. Today, I'll be doing a presentation on why good English matters to the world. And I hope it generates interesting comments and questions. And just to say that there will be an opportunity at the end of it all for people to ask questions and make some comments. So as Michael kindly said, I am a dental surgeon by profession. And one might ask, how does a dentist get to write a book on English language? And I say, why not? Why not? I'm also a lecturer and an educationist, and my passion actually for education led me to undertake a master's degree at the Institute of Education in London. I also own a school. It's called East Airport International School, which is in Ghana, and is one of the very successful schools in Ghana. We have children from many different diverse cultures and nationalities, and it makes it a very vibrant environment. The majority of our students in the school are non-native English speakers. And indeed, I am myself a product of the Commonwealth, a non-native English speaker too. And my research for my thesis, when I did my master's in educational assessment, led me to take an in-depth look, actually, at the teaching of English in my school, in particular, and in other countries as well, and gleaning information from the body of knowledge available. The outcomes I came up with was that, in my view, the teaching of English post-phonics had gaps which I believed needed addressing. So these observations were that there were so many brilliant children who were doing really well in some subjects. However, they were falling short somewhat in English. So they would grasp the rudiments of phonics. Post-phonics proved the challenge. But then there was something about the structure and form of phonics which somewhat offered them the help that they needed to understand the concepts. So you've got the 44 sounds, the letter sounds. They were able to grasp that, digraphs, they were able to grasp that. Then you could build vocabulary, they were reading, spelling, etc. And from there, of course, then you move on to sentence level. And then you're building sentence structure, short sentences, longer sentences, and then the fun really begins where we're looking then at building paragraphs and going into writing stories. And the creativity really then gets in there. But it wasn't going all that well. So from observations, reflections, interrogations, I decided to write a book to help fill the gap, filling that gap. And with my science background, as you know, I'm a dentist, with my science background, with the scientists, we work with formula. What we do is we plug in concepts into a formula, shake it all around, we come up with calculations, we compute it, and end up with an outcome. And I could see this actually in the structures of phonics. I could see that. But don't get me wrong, English language does have structure. But I just think that in my opinion, it just wasn't being taught very well. So that was me and my quest to try to get something done to help students to be able to access this better. So based on all of that, and what have I alluded to, I decided to write my book. And this just dovetails now into the next part of my presentation, which is a few slides. So I'm just going to share my screen so that I can share the slides with you. Okay. Right, so here we are. Why good English matters to the world. So we have loads of people who are all over the world. We go out to different parts of the world, be it business or pleasure and holidays. And we come across people who we're communicating with, and some of the people we think, gosh, I frankly didn't understand anything that the person said, or I understood very little. And then sometimes we have all these people who are speaking really well, and we comment, oh my, you speak really good English. So we have all people on this trajectory who are trying to do the best they can with the language. And if we stop to think about it, people have to get their interviews done, their job prospect, job promotions, and all of this needs to be looked at, mostly in English. In the Commonwealth, the legal language, and actually the world's scientific language is English. We have all these people who are trying to access this language, and for one reason or other, perhaps finding it difficult. Take students, and I think that's really classic. If you take students, so the international GCSEs is a good example. The student who's taken that paper in the UK can access it reasonably well. Somebody in Africa, in Asia, in South America taking the same paper would have some difficulty accessing it. And all of these, I felt we need to address it in my own small way. We need to try and look at all of this and find a way to help students, and not just students and adults as well. So that's where I came in. Just a little bit of statistics. This is from Statista and 2021. And as you can see from the bar graphs, that out of the 7.8 billion people in the world, 1.35 billion speak English. And that is the most spoken language in the world, 17% of the world population. However, what is an interesting statistic is that the native English speakers are 360 million, which is 27%, and the majority are non-native speakers, 73%, making English the most studied language in the world. So it does matter. It does matter. So this is my book, Student English Guide. I've mentioned about the post-phonics and areas where I felt that we could just tweak up a little bit and make it just a bit easier for students. So I sort of try very hard to simplify some of these concepts, which can be actually quite complex and daunting, and put it, I can say, all in one place to help guide learners. This is my school in Ghana, where the research took place and continues to take place. These are two images put together, by the way. And my book, Student English Guide, is divided into 3 sections. And the first section is the literary terms. So you've got your nouns, your verbs, your alliterations, your connectives, etc. there. And I have word banks, which is plenty of examples, plenty of examples there. And then figures of speech in there as well. So what I'll just, the last few slides, what I'll do there is to look at a few excerpts from the book. So your connectives they are so important because they link your language, they link your sentences together. And it's so important to be able to have that so that your work gels together and it flows together. Otherwise, your sentences are left hanging. So your connectives key to making your work sound smooth and flow well. So a few examples there: your meanwhile, furthermore, eventually, etc. there. And then commonly used words. These words are overused words where, you know, we keep having people say it's good, it's bad, and it's nice, and things like that. And I have lots of examples and lots of other words that people can use in place of, and of course, with the right context. So instead of good, you could use your cheerful, splendid, happy. Instead of bad, unfortunate, unpleasant, foul, and many more examples like that in the book. And then adjectives. The adjectives are so important, so important, but they seem to, you know, I don't know, I think that people seem to get a bit unnerved when it comes to adjectives, but they are what helps us form pictures, form imagery in our spoken and written language. So it's by no means a mistake when you look in my book where I have many pages dedicated to adjectives in there. But not only have I put in a whole load of adjectives, I've actually categorized these adjectives. So you have your 5 senses. So you've got your touch adjectives, you have your smell adjectives, you have your taste adjectives, etc., and many more. Sight adjectives, I have subcategorized those as well. So you can have a look in there and say, okay, I need to have imagery and I want to use smell, so that you can go to smell, or sound. And with the sound, for example, I've further said soft sounds and loud sounds, so that it's very specific to whatever context you're doing. And the LOI words, the LOI words are just amazing. They make for very good sentence starters. So you've got some sentences, you want to start sentence, you want to vary your sentences, so you don't want to keep starting the sentences every time with similar words. So LYs come through, they make it have impact, and they make your story really come through and shine. So these are some examples of LOI words: your accidentally, luckily, luxuriously, and so on and so forth. And these would really start bringing out your story, both, but of course, verbal and written word is what I'm talking about. And this, the figures of speech, if you permit me to stay on this slide just for a bit longer, the figures of speech really is the deal clincher. These figures of speech have to be mastered as much as possible, and is the game changer here. So yes, everything else is important, as I've mentioned earlier. So with this, what I've done is come up with a really simple acronym. So hopefully it can be remembered. So it's MAPOSH. You can use your own acronyms. I've seen a few different ones, but it just means that every time you're doing a piece of writing, in the back of your mind, MAPOSH. And this is where parents come in to say, okay, let's have a look at your homework. Have you got your MAPOSH in there? Can we just have a look? Have you got LY words in there? Have you got any connectives in there? Let's go backwards. Adjectives, double adjectives, and even contrasting adjectives to get your oxymorons. So that it just means that the whole thing comes together very, very beautifully. So the MAPOSH, the metaphor, M from the metaphors. So we're talking about describing something as something else, which are not really related. So laughter is music of the soul. Alliterations, don't forget the assonance in there. So the alliterations are the common ones, which is the consonants, repeating of the same consonant sounds very close to each other. Assonance is a repeating of vowel sounds. And I think that as long as people know what they are, know the examples of them, of course you should know the names, but they shouldn't dwell too much on the name of it, but the examples, and that's what I've got in my book, plenty of that. The assonance, important. Edgar Poe was one of the masters of this. I'll just give an example of an assonance. This is from My Fair Lady. The rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain. Those of you who can remember My Fair Lady. Then moving on to personification. Personifications, again, giving a human value to a non-human object. Also bringing style to your language. So Awa's car headlight winked at me. Plenty of examples there. And I would intrigue. I was very intrigued by all of this. And it just made so much more interesting reading and interesting language. So I just have a passion for this. Then your onomatopoeia. Again, onomatopoeia make very good one-word sentence. So vary in your sentence length, one-word sentence, flip-flop. Interjections as well make very good one-word sentences. So your wow, your excellent. All of these really then makes your work so different, and it adds all the structure, and it adds more interest to it, and people would want to read it and carry on reading it. Similes is using as or like to link something to another. So it's as gentle as a lamb, describing one thing, making it sound like making it as the other. The next thing is the hyperbole, which is the exaggerations. So Loretta's smile was a mile wide. Yeah, so lots of exaggerations there. And I think that, yeah, if we can, as parents, perhaps as well as teachers, look at it and say to our children, now, in your piece of work, at least use 3 of the mapush. Have you got it? Have you put any of the mapush in there? Go back and have a look. If you can get all 6 in there, even better. And these are the things that I believe are really going to help enhance the creative language. So that's mostly about my book. There's a lot more in there. The book is available worldwide on Amazon. In Ghana, booknook.store is an online bookstore. And then there's Vidya Bookstore as well, which is in Osu in Ghana.